All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? What's up? Welcome to Casual Friday Talking Buffalo podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. I'm your host, Patrick Moran. You can find me on Twitter at Pat Moran Tweets. And I'm always excited to have Joe Yerdon on for Casual Friday. It's always my favorite show of the week. We talk Bills, Sabres. We have a draft. It's always fun. This week, too, is a little bit of a bonus. Right now, you're probably listening to this, but I will say this: for the first time, literally ever, since I've started this podcast 4 years ago, I am going to put this entire episode out on video, YouTube. It'll be out Friday morning at some point. I'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, Joe Yerdon, co-host of the Maintenance Day podcast, alongside Lance Lazowski of the Buffalo News, hockey writer, good buddy of mine, recurring guest on this show, Casual Friday co-host. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing great. You made me actually have to throw a shirt on this time because I'm doing video. I don't need to be painting that picture for everybody at home, but yeah. So I had to do things a little bit better this time. I'm just joking. I get dressed to do every podcast. Just usually I wear a suit. This time I'm just wearing a t-shirt. So
yeah, you look good though, buddy. You look good. Let me just say this for people, because again, the vast majority of people are listening to this podcast, and quite frankly, hopefully that continues. We've talked about this a little bit before on previous episodes. I prefer personally everyone listens to the show, but we've been working towards adding some video elements to the show. And obviously, again, that time is now. I get asked all the time, why don't you have any video? There's still people out there that don't really know what a podcast is. As crazy as that might sound in 2022.
How is that possible?
All right. Let me rephrase it. Everybody knows what a podcast is. Let me take that back. Let me walk that back a little bit here. There's a lot of people, in fact, a lot of friends of mine who they don't listen to podcasts because they just don't have the apps, or they don't bother to look up the apps, like whether it's Apple or Spotify. People still and some people just would rather visually watch something as opposed to, listening to something on their phones. So I knew this was coming. And again, I'm not going to put every episode out on YouTube. This is mainly for, we'll put up clips. We'll do some original content on this YouTube channel, which, by the way, Talking Buffalo podcast YouTube channel. So go ahead and subscribe to that. But again, I get asked this all the time. So the main reasons why we're starting to do video now is I want to add some elements to the show that we haven't had before. But again, not all episodes will be out there. You have to nowadays. Name me a podcast right now that really doesn't have any video. That's good. There's not a lot of them.
I could name one.
What is that?
It's called Maintenance Day
with and Lance Lazowski. But for the most part, they are there. So, you have to nowadays. And plus now doing video stuff and just having a webcam and some lighting gives me an opportunity to start jumping on some other shows to talk sports and help promote this podcast that I really haven't done before, because I had the worst webcam in the history of the world and just some really bad bedroom lighting. So I would always blow it off and make an excuse. But again, not all these episodes are going to be out on video. Some will. I still want people to listen first and foremost. But if you're not going to listen on Apple or Spotify and it's either YouTube or nothing, cool, then you can watch, these full episodes. Here, I might not have the time to. It takes time to put this stuff out. You know that. It takes some energy, and I might not always have that. So audio is still the only place where you're going to hear every episode in its entirety. But anyway, on that note, man.
But if you don't listen on the podcast formats, you have to deal with looking at us. So, it's just, that's the sacrifice you have to make.
And this is going to be warts and all. So there's no editing, I got to work on some things too, because it's a process. You know this. You've done lots of radio and you've done TV spots. You've done a lot of video stuff. There's a big difference between audio and visual. And I got some stuff that I need to work on. This is like my rookie year doing this video stuff on podcasts. One of the things I do personally, and I can tell you're a lot more polished than I am with this. I move my head around a lot. I'm a head jerker. You know what I'm saying? I jerk my head around a lot. Yeah, I am. I'm a body talker. I use my hands, that's fine. But when I'm always doing this and moving my neck and stuff, like I just did on purpose there, it's something I need to work on. So it's going to be a process for me, but a fun one, man. I'm looking forward to doing some of this stuff on video.
Yeah, it's, I if you're watching the video, you just saw me mute my mic so I could cough. So you can see how many times we save you from hearing gross bodily sounds like coughing and sneezing and, gasping for air and looking for water to make ourselves feel better. Although you get to watch us drink water. Hey, what a bonus, everybody.
All right. So I do want to jump right into today's topics. Again, we, like always, we got a lot of Bills stuff. I mean, it's a big week for the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk some Sabres. We're going to do.
Is it a big week for the Bills?
It's sort of a big week for the Bills.
Okay.
It's a big week for our starting five weekly draft too. We're
It
doing
is.
musicals this week, something that I busted your balls a little bit on Twitter earlier this week, and you got me good. Somebody suggested that this one, I can't remember.
I think it was Matt Perino's wife suggested musicals. Yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
okay.
It was Miss Perino. She suggested this, and I jokingly said Joe doesn't have any class and culture, so he doesn't know musicals. And then you came back.
I called you out. I asked you how many musicals have you been in?
The answer is 0.
I've been in 3.
Have you really?
Oh yeah, high school, man. Not High School Musical, but like musicals in high school. That's a big difference.
Yeah. Well, and that'll be fun.
Hopefully I don't have to pick any of those 3 musicals because I might be in trouble if so.
That'll be fun. For that though, like I said, with a lot of serious business here, we got to start out talking Buffalo Bills. Of course we do.
Yes.
And just what a beautiful game that was last Saturday. It was an ass kicking, and obviously we're not gonna spend much time talking about that. It's long in the rearview mirror now, and it's all about Sunday, Buffalo, Kansas City, the rematch. I'll say this though, it was unexpected. At least we both. Nobody saw that coming to that extent. We talked about
not to that extent. No, yeah.
Let me tell you this: I felt rather confident when you and I talked about the game last week, and we both picked Buffalo. Again, neither of us thought it was going to be that bad, and I don't think anyone did. But so Saturday, when it got closer to the game, I can't really explain why, but I was crippled with anxiety leading up to the game. The hours leading up to the game, I had plans. My cousin and a group of friends went to a bar in West Seneca, and I was going to go. I had every intention on going. Now this year's been really weird for me. I've been really busy on game days. I've worked through some of the games. So I haven't really had many opportunities to really truly enjoy a Buffalo Bills game from start to finish without having to go back and watch a lot of it on DVR and stuff like that. So I had every intention on going out and making this a party, but I just got so nervous and panicky. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I knew, or at least I thought I knew, that New England was just not going to be, you have to go out and beat them. They weren't going to beat themselves. You have Bill Belichick. You have a strong running game and a really good defense, and the weather was really, really cold. And like it or not, the narrative for a lot of last week, we hit on it a little bit too, was the Bills just don't seem like they're built to play in this type of weather. The Bills the offense seems to gel, and it seems to be built for weather that's nice because the Bills sling the ball all over the yard, So anyway, I was literally pacing the floors in my dining room, just back and forth, leading up to the game. I ended up staying home and I watched the game by myself. Didn't go anywhere. No bar with my buddies, no family party. My family was having a big party, a Bills gathering, and do that for every Bills game. I stayed home by myself, dude. I was that nervous going into the game. Completely unfounded now, and now it's laughable. But
did you wear out a path pacing?
I did. I'm
for
a pacer
the first quarter. That's basically the only time you had to worry at all was like the first quarter.
That's the funny thing about the game, because it never was in doubt, man. The Buffalo Bills just, dude, they annihilated the New England Patriots, and that game offensively was just, man, it was as close to perfection as any game I've ever seen. And I've been around for a very long time, and making myself sound really old there. But I've never seen an offense just click like that for the Buffalo Bills. It was literal perfection. Yeah. 7 drives, 7 touchdowns. I'm not counting the kneel down at the end. I refuse to count that.
Pointless.
But 7 drives, 7 touchdowns. They were a perfect 6 for 6 on third downs. They only even got the third down 6 times throughout the game. Just, I don't know, kind of looking back now, based on our conversation and just your feeling going into the game, on a scale of like 1 to 10, how stunned are you that the game played out the way it is. Not perfection from the Bills offensive side, because again, nobody saw that coming, but just generally how easily Buffalo handled the New England Patriots.
I'm going to put it about a 6. Honestly, because I think when we were breaking this down last week, I the one thing I said was New England's coming into the playoffs playing horrible. Like they had lost 3 of their last 4. It started with the game in Foxborough against Buffalo, where they lose that game, and it was just kind of like look kind of crappy in that game. And then they lose a couple more after that, and you're like, these guys look a little done. Like, and the way Buffalo had beat them before, I was like, there's no, I think I even said it last week, and you can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But I think I even said, there's no reason for Buffalo to lose this game.
You said that.
They're playing way better. New England was playing terrible. Like part of the of getting good in the playoffs is just going in hot. Like if you're playing well going in, then like that's a huge step forward. And Buffalo was going in pretty hot. Now, granted, it was, against Atlanta, against the Jets, like whatever, but like they'd still beat New England, like, 4 weeks beforehand. Okay. Like that's the way it goes. Like they're playing really well, and New England was playing like ass. Like they're playing absolutely terrible football. And I was like, the Bills shouldn't have a struggle with them this time around. I was like, it's a home game. It's not going to be 50-mile-an-hour winds. Like they're going to be able to throw the ball. I didn't, temperatures, whatever. Like, temperature doesn't necessarily force you to have to do a ground attack. Like it just, it sucks catching a ball being thrown at, 60 miles an hour when it's, 1 degree outside. Like that's horrible. I don't want to deal with that. Like, no, thanks. Like, I'm getting out of the way of the ball at that point. But like, I didn't see any reason. Like I said, my thought was like, if Buffalo struggled, I don't like their chances to go deep in the playoffs because New England looked like crap. Like, I even said it on Twitter during the Arizona St. Louis game. I said that the 2 teams that were playing the worst heading into the playoffs were Arizona and New England. And, Arizona ended up making New England look like a Super Bowl team of the way they played against the Rams. But obviously throwing a perfect game up, like you don't expect that ever. Like that's stupid. 7
Bills
drives, 7 touchdowns. Like that's
Bills
nuts.
fan or not, Joe, Bills fan or not, that's probably the best I've ever seen an offensive look. I mean, you can't get any better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like they won on a bunch of short fields. I don't have the drives in front of me, but they went 80 yards, they went 75 yards, they went 60-some yards.
And like 3 plays too. Like, I think one drive was like 85 yards and like 3 or 4 plays. Like,
3 plays. They did that. They methodically went down the field. They went down the field every way imaginable. Josh Allen with his legs, Josh Allen with his arm, Devin Singletary running the football. It was pleasantly, for me at least, pleasantly stunning. And again, there were 2 things I was concerned about is the weather. I talked myself into believing that the weather was going to be a big factor. The wind that was never a factor. It was cold. It was frigid. It was 0. I think it was like maybe 3 degrees or something. The wind chill was below 0. It just didn't affect the Bills at all. And again, coupled with New England being a top 5 defense coming in and Bill Belichick. I mean, what I get the guy, look, man, I don't know what it is, but that was a lifeless football team that we saw last week too. They just, the one thing I did not expect was the New England Patriots to roll over. And it's basically, it felt to me, that's what it was. And you look at Bill Belichick, and I feel like he's not getting criticized nearly as much as he should. Look, I'm not going to take away his accomplishments through his career. He's been one of the greatest coaches that's ever lived, if not the greatest coach. But minus Tom Brady, I looked it up. I think his record 54-60 without Tom Brady. So this whole discussion on who was more instrumental in the Patriots' success over the 20 years, Brady or Belichick, especially considering Tom Brady literally just won a Super Bowl and he's back in the playoffs now. Granted, a lot of talent around him, but that's not even a debate anymore. I don't know what it is. Bill Belichick, it just, he deserves a lot of the blame for this game. I mean, they were outgunned. I think there was a talent discrepancy between the teams, but to lose by 30, which was the second worst loss of his career by only 1 point. And that's only because the Patriots scored a garbage touchdown at the end. That would have been the worst loss of his career. It was the worst playoff loss of his career. I don't know. It just seemed like this team, before I move on to the Chiefs, by the way, It just seems like the Patriots weren't even ready to play football, ain't it?
Yeah, everything that they had done well in the previous 2 games against the Bills, they didn't do remotely as well. Like, they weren't able to really run the ball at all. They felt like they had to throw it a lot. And
Sure.
I mean, when you get down, you have to throw it. Like you don't have an option. Like you get down 2 scores, you can't just grind out, the whole game, especially when your defense isn't getting any stops. Like you're forced to throw at that point. And, I know everybody's very eager to bury Mac Jones. I get it. Like it's very easy, but it's also a rookie. Like,
yeah,
I
thought he played all right.
Oh no, a rookie played bad in his first playoff game. Well, yeah, no shit.
I don't think he was that bad. I thought he was that
fine.
bad.
He was fine. Like, but I mean, he wasn't throwing for 400 yards and like keeping the team in the game. But like, he didn't play badly. Like, okay, fine. But fans always love the dog pile. I get it. And you know what? The one tweet I had during the game was the bill always comes due. And after 20 years of the Patriots, kicking the Bills around and generally treating them like second class citizens, payback's a mother. And you know what? If they wanted to run up the score in that game, they could have. Like they very easily could have. They didn't have to. Like every time they got the ball, they got a touchdown. Great. Like that's even more impressive than being like, well, let's just add some more points. It doesn't matter. You didn't need to. Like that's as affirming of a win as you can have to kind of put some of the past pain behind you. Like it doesn't absolve the Bills for being run horribly for, more than 2 decades. It doesn't absolve that, but it sure makes you feel good when the team that, was on the hammer side of the hammer and nail rivalry gets finally tossed into the garbage. Like that's very satisfying.
Yeah. Let me say this one last point. If I'm a New England Patriots fan right now, blame it. Matt Jones is near the bottom of what I'm mad at right now.
Yeah.
Again, I'm mad at my coach because I don't think this team was prepared. I'm mad at the defense because they looked at one point they looked disinterested in making a tackle. I mean, the front line, the front seven was getting pushed around by the Bills offensive line, which I haven't said that much this year. Matthew Judon, I don't know what the hell happened to that guy, but that guy went from being all world to useless. He was literally useless.
All 3 games against the Bills, he was a no-show. Like the Bills defense made it, or the Bills offensive line made it a point to be like, no, we're taking that guy away because he drives the bus for them.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I don't know. It'll be a long off season for New England. Buffalo, obviously the season continues.
Is it going to be that long of an off season for him? Like this was kind of unexpected for them to win 10 games. In my mind.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, they got a bunch of guys back from that, missed the year because of COVID and whatever, but like, they dipped heavy into free agency. Like, okay, like that's fine. But I certainly did not see them in anywhere near the conversation to be a threat for the division, which they were.
Right.
They were,
but like they were a legit threat. Sure.
Right. But like, I did not. I mean, they were horrible last year. Like that was a really bad team last year. And then this year they win 10 games. Like, I don't know if this is going to be losing that way sucks. Like, let's not get it confused. Like that's a horrible way to have your season end in their position. Obviously it's a great way for the Patriots season to end of Bills fans purview, but for them, like it's a disappointing end, but like, I don't know, man, like they were a really good team for most of the season, very unexpectedly in my eyes anyways.
No, I think you're right about that. What I would say though, and again, this is a conversation that will carry into the offseason once the NFL season ends, or at least for the Bills anyway, is they were good this year, 10 wins. That might have been sort of unexpected, but I'm not really that high on them going into the offseason. I don't think they have a lot of good young talent. They got a quarterback who I think is a pretty good quarterback. I don't think he's going to be on an elite level. Now, in fairness to Matt Jones, hey, if you and I would have been doing this podcast at the end of the 2018 season, what would we have been saying about Josh Allen at that time? He was not very good as a rookie. Matt Jones had a better rookie year than Josh Allen. Let's just put it that way. But that said, I don't think his ceiling is nearly as high. So, but anyway, that team, they just don't have a lot of good, young, proven talent. I actually would say, and we'll talk about this in the coming weeks, but I think Miami and maybe even the Jets might be a bigger threat to the Bills than New England going forward. And maybe, just maybe, and I know New England Patriots fans definitely want to hear this, maybe Bill Belichick's time has passed at this point. I don't know. It just felt like that team laid an egg in the playoffs, and that's not something that you see from Bill Belichick. But anyway, moving on. Buffalo, Kansas City this week. kind of good news, bad news. Let's start with the bad news here, okay? Because now the Buffalo Bills have lost, and I got to give John Worrell credit for this tweet that he put out. The Buffalo Bills have lost 8 straight playoff losses when not playing in Orchard Park, and that includes their last 2 Super Bowl losses. Their last road win in the postseason was at Miami in the AFC Championship game, all the way back on January 17th, 1993. I remember that game, by the way. That was a long time ago. And again, this is the bad stat. I'll give you a good one in a couple minutes here. But 8 straight playoff losses. Sean McDermott. Now, maybe you don't want to look in that's ancient history, some of those games, Super Bowls.
It's definitely
stuff
ancient
like
history.
It is ancient history.
2 Super Bowls are in
All
that
right,
number. Like
I agree.
That's very old.
But here's something that's not very old. The Buffalo Bills are 0-3 in the playoffs under Sean McDermott, too. So, this has been from the start of last season through now kind of like a series of humps that the Bills need to get over. Like last year, they couldn't get over the Kansas City hump. Week 5, they did get over the Kansas City hump. This is a hump, and this is a big one right now. The Buffalo Bills are 0-3 in the playoffs on the road under Sean McDermott. How much stock do you put in a stat like that? How much does that mean, or is it completely and utterly meaningless to you going into a game like this?
I don't think it's meaningless. I think there's some value to that because I think there's a level of preparation needed to play on the road. Like either I think there's different things as a coach you need to do to be able to get your team ready to play on the road. Like that's just the way that goes. Like that. I mean, you can do all like the sound prep and practicing for a loud, for a loud crowd and whatever. Like you can do that, but was there much of a crowd last year in the AFC title game? I don't remember if there was crowd. No, because that was like right when they started letting people back in.
Yeah, I don't remember if Kansas City. I don't think they had full capacity.
I don't think it was a full house though.
I know they had more than the Bills did. Like the Bills were allowed like 7,500 for their 2 games.
They might, but like it wasn't a crowd that you're going to get this time around where it's 65, 70,000 people. Like that's
right.
This is a different Arrowhead Stadium this time around.
Tough place to play.
Oh yeah, it for anybody. It's not just like a Josh Allen can't deal with the crowd on the road. Whatever. Like Allen's proven enough already to me that like anything that you try to stack up against them in previous years probably doesn't apply. Necessarily. Like I don't think that really applies, which I mean, I guess it leads to my point. Like the 0-3 thing, like you look at the games that they lost with McDermott. Like one's the Jacksonville game with Tyrod at quarterback. That was one of the worst playoff games I've ever watched, just in general. Not by the Bills.
They were happy to be there.
Yeah. Bills were happy to be there, but also Jacksonville, like they didn't let Jacksonville score a ton of points, but like Jacksonville's D that year was incredibly good. But it was a boring game. That a playoff game shouldn't be boring. Like that game was boring. But like the game against Houston, okay, that was Allen's first year?
Yeah, it was his second year.
And he looked very green. Okay. Like, that's what happens. And then Kansas City game last year on the road, like much better Allen, but like Kansas City's Kansas City, man. Like that's how it is. And I still kind of feel that way about Kansas City. I did not like the way their game started against Pittsburgh. I thought the first quarter and a half, I thought they looked very pedestrian. But it seemed like they were trying to feel things out with the Steelers. And the Steelers were playing over their head anyways, the whole end of the season. But like once Kansas City got it figured out, like they rolled, like they absolutely ruined Pittsburgh, which they should have. Like that's the way that goes. But I think if this game goes the same pattern, which it probably isn't gonna, but if Kansas City is not doing things right for the first quarter and a half, they might be in a hole they can't get out of because Buffalo's better. Like Buffalo's not better than Kansas City, but they're playing better than they have most of the season. The running game is actually a thing now. Like that's honestly the most mind bending thing possible. I do love the fan conspiracy theory that like that McDermott and Dable were hiding it all year just to try to lull people to sleep. I'm like, no, did you watch them run the ball? They couldn't do it. They couldn't run the ball ever. Like unless it was Allen taking off with the ball after being flushed from the pocket. They weren't running ever. They couldn't.
If they were running the ball earlier in the year, they wouldn't be playing this game in Kansas City. Let's just put it that way. This game would be being played in Orchard Park.
They wouldn't be playing. They wouldn't have been playing last week. Like that's the thing.
Right.
Like they would have been number one, easy. Like hands down, they would have been number one in the East, or the AFC. But like there is a small amount of merit to the road thing. But Allen's a different player now, so I don't know that you can really throw that into the blender and say that it's the same thing. Now, if they go out and lose by 30 to Kansas City this week, then you got to be like, okay, maybe there's something to it. If Allen has a horrible game and they lose by 30, then you got to be like, well, okay, like that's not what you want. That's not what you're looking for. But I don't see this. I don't see that game going this way. It doesn't sound like the weather is going to be horrific, like one way or the other. It seems like it's going to be normal winter in Kansas City weather. So whatever, that's fine. But I don't know, man. Like this is, again, if I was a gambler, I don't want to touch this game with a 30-foot pole. Never mind a 10-foot pole. I don't want to get anywhere near it, man. Like the money lines, the spread, none of that. Keep it away from me. I don't want to touch this game.
The Bills have a lot to prove this game. To me,
yes,
I would liken this to the NBA back in the 90s, and I'm talking about the Eastern Conference, just like I'm talking about the AFC in this scenario here. Back in the 90s, the Chicago Bulls were the dominant team, and the New York Knicks were a very good basketball team. And I'm talking about Chicago once they got past Detroit, okay?
Yeah.
The New York Knicks were a really good team in the East. And were it not for the Bulls, they probably could have went to 3 or 4 NBA finals instead of just one. And that one year was when Michael wasn't Michael. Right. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like the Bills got to prove that they're not the New York Knicks and that they're a really good team, but they just can't get over that hump being the Kansas City Chiefs, because that's the standard of the AFC. The team's been to the Super Bowl 2 straight years. They looked like shit earlier in the year, including when they played the Bills. And they're still beatable now, but until you beat them, they're the kings of the AFC. Now, that was the bad news, the 0-8. I want to pull up this graphic here, and for people listening, and I'll read it. It was from CBS Sports, and it listed the most NFL teams with 12 wins or more. 12 points or more in each of their wins since the merger that had at least 12 wins during the season. You had the Rams. I'll read off the teams. The 1999 Rams, 2002 Tampa Bay Bucks, the 1985 Bears, the 2000 Ravens, the 1998 Broncos, the 96 Packers, and the 1991 Washington Redskins. All had at least 12 games where they won by 12 or more points this year. The Buffalo Bills have won 12 games by 12 or more points this year. And that list that I just read off, and if you're watching this on YouTube that I just showed you, every single one of those teams have went on to win the Super Bowl. So again, maybe it means nothing, just like going 0-8 in the playoffs dating back 25 years doesn't really mean anything for today. But that is worth noting, man. You win, you blow out teams by 12 or more points, and you do it a dozen or more times. Quite statistically, every single one of those teams have went on to win the Super Bowl. So if you're a Bills fan and you're looking for some positive numbers going into this game, I just gave it to you, man. That's a good stat if you're a Bills fan anyway.
Now, does that set me up to be the come down guy? Because I do have some reasons to be just back of the mind things. Again, they play differently now than they did earlier in the season, but every game that they had a big blowout win against a key opponent, the following week they had a huge letdown. The Kansas City game this year, they beat the Chiefs by 18. The next week they lose to Tennessee. Okay. They thump on Miami for the second time, the 26-11 win at home. Like that, played very good. Dolphins weren't really in that game at all. Lose to Jacksonville the next week. Okay. They beat the Saints 31-6 on Thanksgiving. Awesome. Huge win. Like Saints, whatever. They're whatever. The next week they lose to New England. They beat the Jets 45-17. Everybody said, "Oh, Bills are back." After losing to Jacksonville, then they lose to the Colts 41-15 the next week. And it's like the Bills have been very guilty this year of getting high on their own supply and letting their heads get a little bit too big at times. Now, I hope they've learned from that this year, because let's face it. I mean, that's a problem like that. You don't want to kick back and, thump somebody and be like, we got it figured out now. We got this. You can't be doing that now. Like this, you can't go into this game thinking like, we beat these guys by almost 20 earlier this season. We got this game. Like, no, you can't be thinking that way. You'll be like, we had 7 drives, 7 touchdowns. We got this. We got this in lockdown. Like, no, you don't. Like, Kansas City still threw up 42 last week. Kansas City, has been an infinitely better team. They started off like what 1-4, 1-5 or something like that, and then they went.
I don't know what it was, but it was they were playing some
bad.
ugly football. A lot of,
but like then they went 9-1 after that. Like,
yeah,
okay, like they're obviously clicking. They've obviously got their act together. I think they're like 10-1 now because they beat the Steelers. But like, if you're the Bills, your head better be in check, because they've been really guilty of thinking they've got it figured out and they've got it down. Like, nobody's going to beat us now. And then, you lose to Jacksonville by a field goal in a game where you only get field goals. You lose, you get your ass dragged around the field by the Colts. Like, you can't be thinking, that you've got it done. You've got it figured out. Like, this is good. I think that's going to be the real test for this crew, to hope that they've learned some humility along the way. Like, the confidence is very high. The confidence has always been there. Confidence might be something that gets them a little bit in trouble too. So I would hope that McDermott will have the guys' heads in check and be like, hey, I would be reminding this team of that. Like the entire week at practice, be like, you think you're good? Okay, well, hey, let's look back at that Jacksonville game, guys. Let's go back and look at that Colts game. Like, remember when you thought you were going to beat the world in, and this stuff happened? Like, don't let it happen again. Just don't.
All right, we're back. I pretty much just cut Joe off with a commercial.
Thanks, Pat. You're like, screw you, funny. Joe. You're raining on my parade.
But listen, back to Bills Chiefs here. I'm going to say this too. I had a conversation this week with Damon Harris. Now, Damon Harris is Buffalo born and raised. Most people know his story, especially if you listen to the show. Went to UB, a walk-on, wasn't even a scholarship player, undrafted, spent time with Tampa. Anyway, he spent over 2 years with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's got himself a nice Super Bowl ring. Really cool stuff. I love Damon. He's a very, very close family friend. He's best friends with my nephew. He spends a lot of time with my son. Anyway, this week was my mother-in-law's birthday, and we had a gathering, and Damon was over the house, and we had a nice conversation about Bills Chiefs. And let me say this now: Damon doesn't play with the Chiefs anymore. He's with Houston, and Damon's a Buffalo guy, and he told me what he wants to see Beastbone for Buffalo. He doesn't play for the Chiefs anymore, but I asked him honestly, what does he think about the game? And again, this is just one person's opinion, but it is somebody who knows the Kansas City Chiefs significantly better than you and I do, and pretty much anyone else out there who's talking about this game. He is he thinks the Chiefs are extremely confident, and he thinks that, I don't want to go as far as to say he thinks that for sure the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win, but I think he does. He didn't say that word for word. He emphasized to me what a different team that this is right now compared to what it was when Buffalo played him. I mean, he's not giving us any breaking news. We all know that. We have eyes. We saw the game. Just a different team, completely, totally, all together than what they were. And as we kind of, I think there's a couple factors, and I just want to spend a couple minutes here quickly talking about some of them. I think there's 3 things that the Buffalo Bills need to do in order to beat the Chiefs when it counts. Not that week 5 didn't count. I think week 5 mattered a ton. It was just one game in the standings, but I think mentally the Bills had to win that game. And we talked about that when it happened earlier in the season. So I'm not putting any I'm not taking away from their win. It mattered a lot. But this is a different Chiefs team now. And to be fair, even though the Bills won that game, I think this is a different Bills team too now. I think the Bills are far more, they've been playing more consistent football, and they can run the football. And Josh Allen's playing at an MVP level again right now. But anyway, there's 3 things that I think the Bills need to do. Number 1, first and foremost, the offensive line. They've looked good of late. I don't think he's been sacked in a month now, Josh Allen. Ryan Bates coming in is really turned the tide of this offensive line. And Deion Dawkins was out with COVID. He came back anyway. I'm not really talking about the offensive line, other than they need to find a way to effectively block the Kansas City defensive line. The first time they played, they only had Frank Clark, who's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
But there was Melvin Ingram was a Pittsburgh Steeler at that time. And Melvin Ingram did a pretty good number on the Bills on opening week when he played with Pittsburgh. So Melvin Ingram's going to be a problem. And beyond either of those two guys, Chris Jones just absolutely last year in 2 games against the Bills terrorized them. I mean, he made John Feliciano look really, really bad. Now, John Feliciano's not even a starter at this point. Ryan Bates is in, but he also had a lot of success against Morse, and he had a lot of success against anybody who the Bills put up in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
That's key number 1 to me. You agree with that? Like the Bills, Kansas City not going to blitz a lot. They want to get to Josh Allen just like the Bills do without having to blitz. Key number 1 for me is giving Josh Allen time to throw the football because the Chiefs don't have a great defense, but they have a defensive line that could get after the quarterback. And a guy in Chris Jones is just, again, he's murdered the Bills through their first, well, at least last year for sure.
Yeah, knowing that Steve Spagnuolo's the guy running that defense, and the lumps they took early on in the season where they looked completely inept. They were giving up like 30 points a game. Spagnuolo's a really smart dude. He was the guy who ran the Giants defenses when they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowls. He was the guy that basically laid the put the game plan out as to how you can get Tom Brady off of his game, and it's the big key to that is having a D line that can pressure. You think of those Giants teams, like you had Strahan, you had Tuch, you had Umenyiora. Like those are 3 dudes that really brought, they brought pressure from all sorts of different spaces against those Pats teams. And, Brady's a different monster. Like Brady's just so cool under pressure generally. He's not a guy that's going to run. One thing I've noticed out of Kansas City though, is that when they do blitz, they blitz from all sorts of different areas. Like they're not bringing that pressure from the same spot every time. They're not just going to try to get him on the blind side. They'll bring it, right into his face, try to get him to make a mistake and throw it too quick. That's really interesting to me. Now it's going to be a different challenge for them going from, immobile Ben Roethlisberger to Allen, who can run. So it's a little different this time around, but this defense is completely different. It's a completely different defense than what Buffalo was playing against back, early in the season. Like this is
their defense carried them in the playoffs, quite frankly, Joe. The offense was playing like crap. I mean, the wheels were coming off early in the year with the Chiefs, but it could have completely fallen off were it not for the defense. The defense has actually been a little more consistent than the offense this year.
Yeah, and the offense being kind of weird, it kind of surprises me. Now, they just lost a lineman a couple weeks ago, one of their starting tackles. So I wonder for them if they started thinking like, oh no, here it goes again, like last year when they lost, two O-line starters, and then in the Super Bowl against Tampa, Mahomes had like 0.3 seconds to try to do anything.
Right.
And like, they were toast, but it's obviously a little bit different. The Pittsburgh defense isn't awful. Like you can't make the playoffs with a bad defense. Like they're okay, but whatever they thought they had figured out against Kansas City in the first quarter last week was gone very quickly. Like whatever adjustments Kansas City made, they got it figured out pretty quick. But yeah, this defense is really interesting. Even the weak part of their defense, which is like their safety, Sorensen, I think his name. Sorensen might be one of the worst safeties I've ever watched. At least the first few weeks of the season.
He's kind of a he's kind of a hybrid player. Like he doesn't really have a true position, but
like he looked every time they got burned. Like in the first 5 weeks, it was him. Like, like teams are just like, no, throw it where that guy is because he's not going to do anything. But now that hasn't been an issue at all. I don't know if that's because they figured out how to use Sorensen better, like having a blitz in or doing whatever. But like whatever their coverages are, whatever they've been doing has been better to make him not a factor. And then you're right. Their D has carried them for a good part of the season where, that snapped them out of it and like helped them get back to the, where they're, 10-1 in their last 11.
Yeah.
Like that D is a big reason why. But, if you're talking about the D going into a Kansas City game, that makes me very nervous from a Buffalo guy, because it's like, if you're worried about the defense when you got, Mahomes and Hill and all those guys on that side, and the friggin' running back they picked up,
McKinnon.
Yeah, McKinnon. Like, how they just pulled that guy off the friggin' scrap heap, and now he looked unstoppable against
because
Pittsburgh.
nobody plays a run against the Chiefs because you gotta worry about their passing game.
Yeah. But he did not look out of place at all. Like they're down like 2 running backs and they bring him in and he looks flawless. So
right.
I don't know, man. Like but that's what I mean. Like you're going to a Kansas City game worrying more about the defense than the offense. That gives me reason to pause.
Yeah, for sure. And look, it's almost unrealistic to expect the Bills. Again, I don't think the Bills have given up a sack in a month. The Bills in 3 of their last 4 games, I know this stat, they've had 3 turnovers in 4 games, and all 3 of them were against Atlanta, and 2 of them were just really weird plays. I think it's unrealistic to expect Josh Allen to not get sacked once in Kansas City, but you don't want this to turn into the Bills at least twice this year that I could think of off the top of my head. The Jacksonville game and the Pittsburgh game on opening day. The Bills let an opposing defensive line just absolutely dictate the game. The defensive line for Jacksonville, and yes, I did say Jacksonville and Pittsburgh, they destroyed the Bills' offensive line on those 2 games. Josh Allen was running for his life and made a lot of mistakes because of that, and I don't even really blame Josh. It was the line. So, yeah, they have to find a way to effectively contain, especially Chris Jones, but do not sleep on Melvin Ingram or Frank Clark for that matter. That's one big point. Conversely, I think another big key for the Bills is on the other side of the football is you got to find a way to get after Patrick Mahomes without having to blitz him. Now, I look back to the first week, and this is per Pro Football Focus, PFF. The Bills, who I don't want to say they dominated Mahomes, but they had a lot of success against them. 4 turnovers that game, too, by the way. 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. But the Bills, and I did not know this, 63 dropbacks for Patrick Mahomes. Guess how many times they blitzed him?
Twice. 0? Oh, my
0.
God. Okay.
They literally made Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable and force him into mistakes without blitzing him once. Now, again, just like I said, it's unrealistic to expect Josh Allen to not get sacked once. I don't know that you're going to be able to get to Pat Mahomes as effectively as you did the first time without blitzing. They're probably going to have to dial up some stuff. But the point is this, that passing game, those weapons, you want to have as many guys in coverage as possible. So if you can get to a quarterback with 4, you're always going to be in an advantageous position defensively because you're not having to blitz that 5th or 6th guy. So the Bills being able to get a pass rush against Mahomes, to me, that's the second key. Again, offensive line blocking and being able to generate some pressure without bringing the house. You got to find a way to do that again, like they did the first time against them.
Yeah. Being able to, so many of the games where I've seen where the front 4 does all the work have been really impressive efforts. Like the Pittsburgh game was that way. Pittsburgh didn't have to blitz Allen the entire game because their front 4 got in the backfield constantly. The Jacksonville game was that way. The Indy game was kind of that way too. You know, like if the lines are getting completely out physicaled, that's a bad sign for Buffalo, because if their line isn't getting out and being aggressive, which I think that's a key part to them running more, because it gets the line active. Because you get those guys running, you get them pushing around, it gets them, instead of wheeling back and trying to pass protect, you're getting out and getting those guys being physical, slapping people around. You need, your offensive lines love to do that. Like those guys just don't want to sit back and pass protect all day. They'll do it, but there's the guys in the Bills O-line love to get out and push guys around like that. Spencer Brown feeds off of that. Ryan Bates certainly seems to feed off that too. Dawkins is very good at doing that. Those guys, they want to get out and push people around. They just want to sit back and wait for guys to come at them. But when you're dealing with a team that, that can just get it done with their front 4, it's so hard. It's so hard for the offense to function, because then if everybody else is back in coverage, that you can cover everybody easier, because those routes have got to get shorter. Because if the line's getting in the backfield, you can't be running guys deep downfield. Deep crosses, deep whatever, like seam passes. None of that is going to work if the quarterback's got to run for his life the whole game. That goes on both sides of for the Chiefs and the Bills. So this is having the line being able to really get out there and muscle guys around is a big deal. I've seen Buffalo do that more the last few weeks, with not just with running, but also, with some of the screen passes, some of the short outs and stuff like that, where, the line can kind of get away with getting a little bit downfield. A lot of the screenplays, especially where it's just like, let everybody go and get out there and start mauling people. So I want to see more of that. Like, the one thing I think the Bills offense has been really good is, and I've noticed this with Allen, is that he spreads the ball around a lot in those opening drives, just to try to not tip off which guy he might fall in love with for the rest of the game. Because I think that was a big problem for him early on, where, his safety blanket was always Beasley, and he just always end up defaulting looking to him, which, hey, great, he's open, but you're going to get 3-4 yards at a time, maybe.
Right.
But like now it's like, okay, let me get the ball to Diggs this one time. Okay, here, there's Gabe Davis. Let me hit him. Oh, there's Beasley. Let's got him. McKenzie's out there. Good. Let's get him running. Let's do this. Like, diversifying the attack works so much better for the Bills because they got a bunch of guys that can do it. And, that's where Kansas City strengths come in too, because they run it's not the same offense. It's not even really a similar offense. It's very different, but like Allen and Mahomes can do so much similar stuff, but like, the Chiefs offense is terrifying. But so is the Bills. So, we'll see. I would love to see this be like what was it? It was like Kansas City Rams game a couple of years back where it was like 50-45. Now everybody would hate that because you can't trust any defense, but damn, man, light it up. Let's see it. Let's see both these high flying offenses just go nuts with it.
It's funny. We spend so much time talking about how wonderful both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are as quarterbacks in these explosive, high octane offenses. But yet we kind of just broke it down and agreed that the trenches is going to probably be what decides this game. And there's one other thing too and I got to hit on this too. And this is my single biggest concern going into the game. I don't want to have this conversation as a Bills fan. I don't want to be sitting here next week with you having a conversation saying this was, what this was, Joe? This was the Trey White game. I think the Bills have been fortunate to some extent since the Trey White injury, which again, that happened on Thanksgiving night against New Orleans. The Bills did play Tampa. So they've had one game where they played a really great quarterback and multiple explosive wide receivers. But aside from that, they've avoided good quarterbacks, quite frankly, or really good wide receiving units. That's obviously ending on Sunday. You got arguably the best quarterback in the game in Patrick Mahomes. You had Tyreek Hill, who torched the Bills last year in the AFC Championship game with Trey White. A lot of it on Trey White. You got good secondary receivers. You got the best tight end in football. So Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace, and I talked about this earlier this week with Aaron Quinn. I think for the Bills to have a chance to win, not a chance. I think the Bills have a chance no matter what. For the Bills to win this football game, I think Dane Jackson and Levi Wallace need to have the best games of their lives. Now, Levi Wallace has been really, really good this year. I think he's been an unsung hero on this team. And I've called him a weak link before, and I've said this. It's not because he's not good. It's just because everyone else in that secondary is literally elite. He's been really good. Dane Jackson has not really had to prove that much. He's a good physical defender, and Aaron Quinn talked about this on the show this week. He says the one aspect of his game where he might even be better than Trey White is he's a more engaging, willing, run-defending tackler, which is true. But he ain't no Trey White, and everybody knows that. And Aaron wasn't trying to say that either, just so we're clear. But anyway, these guys got to be on their A game because the Chiefs are going to go the Chiefs are going to go after Dane Jackson. Let's just put that out there now. This ain't, we don't need to break down all 22 film. We don't need to be Tony Romo and Jim Nantz here sitting there having a conversation. They're going after Dane Jackson. So these guys need to step their game up big time on Sunday.
Yeah. And I think this is one where Taron Johnson's got to be a little bit more. He's not hurt, right? I'm not talking.
No, he's not hurt. He'll spend a lot of time either in the slot on slot receivers, and he'll probably have some matchups alongside with Matt Milano or the safeties with Travis Kelce. I'm confident in them. I'm worried about Dane Jackson and Levi to an extent.
Yeah, and the Kelce factor to me is a big one too, because the last few weeks you've been able to have Hyde and Poyer just play as safeties. They can go deep in coverage when they need to.
Sure.
But if you got to spend time bringing one of them up to get on Kelce to help out Milano or, to do whatever, that opens things up a little deeper down the field. That would give me a reason to pause that again. But that puts the pressure on Jackson and Wallace to make sure that they can take care of their job. Now, the upside is that you could have either safety come down and help out, and the other guy's going to be back there to help cover deep. Now, can he cover? Can he? If you're Kansas City, do you just have these guys run streaks and seams all day just to try to open things up, either underneath for Kelsey or McKinnon, or how do you do it? Like that's going to be a really interesting strategy point for the game, because if they get going to Kelsey and he starts breaking stuff off, and I mean some of the runs he had last week, I was just like, okay, like there is that he's back. Like there's no question how good he is, but I do wonder how you try to work that out, because it's not like you can feel great having at least last season. Like if you had White on Hill and Hill beats you, and it's like, all right, best on best, they got the edge. You don't have a best on best this time with Hill. Like, and Hill's going to do 100 different things. He's Isaiah McKenzie on, times 10 as far as, how they use him, whether it's running, running deep, deep routes and catching the ball, long balls and whatever. That makes that job so much harder for everybody. Like that, trying to think of the ways you can counter their offense to try to make the game more uncomfortable for them. It opens up something else, on the field. And, it's the same. Listen, it's the same for the Bills offense, because if you try to shut down Diggs, okay, cool. You've left Davis open. You've left Beasley open. You've left Dawson Knox open. Like you can do the tit for tat thing, as far as how these offenses go. But the weaponry you have with Kansas City is a little bit more dangerous, because Kelsey's way better than Knox. A lot of Bills fans will be like, no, Dawson Knox is great. Yeah, he is. He's having a great season, but he ain't Travis Kelce. Okay. Stephon Diggs is a great receiver. His skill set is much different than Tyreek Hill's. Like that's where a lot of the strategy is going to get really interesting to see which Kansas City, you almost have to pick which poison you want to deal with more. Like that's kind of where that falls in line. And it's the same for the Bills. Like Chiefs defense is going to have to decide which guy they're going to take their chance on having a bad game, or, being able to, like, hey, if you want to keep forcing to Gabe Davis, hey, fine, have fun. Like if that's the choice, Gabe Davis can certainly beat you. Like that's 100% possible. Like it's a great spot for the Bills to be in, where you can have those weapons to be able to change things up.
Let me ask you this last thing, then we want to talk Sabres for a couple minutes here. We did it last week. We both went with Buffalo. It sounds to me through our conversation today that you've been kind of, and again, for everyone listening or watching, Joe is a Bills watcher. We've established that Joe is not necessarily a Bills fan. So he's going to give you what he truly thinks and not necessarily what he's feeling in his heart when it comes to this game. But anyway, that said, what you got to give me a prediction, man. What do you got?
I think the home field swings it for this game. I think it's going to be a much closer game, but I think Kansas City can edge it out. Now, caveat I'm going to throw here is the destiny factor when it comes to the Bills. Every team that gets the monkey off their back to break through and win it, they have to extinguish a lot of old.
They go this route,
and Bills have already got it started. They vanquished New England. Okay, that's a huge ghost gone. Then you're looking at Kansas City this week, maybe Tennessee the week after. Like that's a lot. Like there's a lot of history. Like there's new history with Kansas City. There's old history with Tennessee. And then if you get to the Super Bowl and they're playing Tampa, well, then of course the final end boss would be Tom Brady, right? Like that's just the way that would work. If there's listen, I know Destiny's like kind of like talking about clutch, being a clutch player and stuff like that, where it's, it's mythical. It's not, it's nonsense. Like, it's not beat around the bush. Like Destiny stuff is nonsense. But if you're going to turn it around, and if you're Buffalo, if you're going to win your first Super Bowl, beating everybody who's made your life miserable the last 25 years goes a long way to doing it. And if you can take care of Kansas City this week, then you're looking at Cincinnati or Tennessee the following week. If you're going to Tennessee, you can beat them. And then if you're going to the Super Bowl, like, hey, whoever, bring whoever at that point. It doesn't even matter. But if it ends up being like a Tampa Bay, then it's like, okay, this is the way it was meant to be. If you're going to do it, you got to beat everybody who's made you miserable along the way.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So like that's my thought on it. I think if Buffalo gets past this game, I think they go to the Super Bowl.
Let me add one thing to your destiny theory here. It would also be cool, of course, Tampa, Tom Brady's the big thing, but Chris Berman for years and years and years picked the Bills and the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl every year. Playing the 49ers in the Super Bowl would be really, really cool as well. And I agree with you about one thing for sure, too. To me, and no disrespect to Tennessee or Cincinnati, to me, this is the AFC Championship game right here, the unofficial AFC Championship game as far as I'm concerned. Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Joe, and honest with everybody watching and listening. I picked, before the playoffs started, I picked the Kansas City Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl and face the Los Angeles Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And several times over the course of this podcast, last few months or so, I've said if my life depended on getting it right and I had to pick a team to go to the Super Bowl and my life and not my heart depended on it, I would pick the Kansas City Chiefs. But I am going to pick the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah,
my mind changed. It's not a look. I would be lying to you if I said that it has zero to do with me being a Bills fan and there's not a little homer in me. I'd be a liar if I said otherwise.
I would call you a liar to your face.
But I'm going to say this. Last week changed me. I think the Bills showed me a lot. I think they're playing their best football. I do buy into that destiny theory. I do think they have a chip on their shoulder from last year. This year, beating them in week 5, getting them a lot of confidence. And I look at the Chiefs and I see a team that's been beatable all year. Even now when they're playing good football and they're winning a lot of games. They lost to the Bengals 2 weeks ago, and they almost lost to the Chargers. They won in overtime. It was a wild game. I can't remember if it was in KC or LA. I think it was in LA. Doesn't matter. Point being is they were both wild games, shootouts, and I could see this game being that way. The Kansas City Chiefs, the difference between them now and last year is I think they're significantly more beatable. And for me, the big key is this. I think the Bills got to start out. They can't fall into no 17-3 hole, early in the second quarter. If that happens, I think they're done. But if the Bills can weather the storm, so to speak, early on, the later this game goes on, I think the Bills from player 1 to 53 are the better football team. I think their defense is better than Kansas City's. I think Kansas City is a better front 4, but I think the back end of their defense stinks. And I think the Bills back 7, even without Trey White, is capable of making some plays. They're not going to shut down Kansas City, but I absolutely can see them making a couple stops. To me, a stop in a game like this is almost as good as a turnover. So I look at it that way. And at the end of the day, I think this offense is firing on all cylinders now. I believe in Josh Allen. I truly do. And I just think when it's all said and done, I think the Bills are going to win this game as long. If the Bills are, last year, the Bills were winning at the end of the first quarter. Okay. But I never felt confident that they were going to win the game. Right. I'm telling you with confidence right now, and you can replay this clip if I'm wrong next week. I hope I'm not. But if the Bills are winning at the end of the first quarter Sunday, they're winning this game.
Even if it's 3-0.
If it's 3-0. If it's 3-3.
Even if it's 3-0, you're saying they got it.
If they're winning by a field goal, I'm not saying it's in the bag, but I think the Bills are going to win this game if they're either up or even tied at the end of the first quarter. If they're not buried, they're going to win this game. And I think the Bills are going to win by 2 scores too. Somewhere between 9 to, 15? 9 or 16. 9 to 16 points. That could be a 2-score game, right? Yep. Whatever. You get what I'm saying. The Bills are winning this game as long as they don't blow it in the first quarter.
Fascinating.
So, yeah.
And you said you would have picked Kansas City if your life depended on it.
I would have.
Interesting.
But now, interesting. My life doesn't depend on being right.
Your sanity depends on it, Pat. Your sanity depends on it.
Yeah, my happiness. Now it's just my happiness depends on the Bills and my sanity to an extent.
No, look, don't hinge your happiness on your sports teams. Take it from a Lions fan.
I know. I don't want to, especially being a Buffalo sports fan. I just, God, man, please don't make me talk next week about the season being over. I'm not ready for it. This team's too good for the season to end right now. That's where I'm at with this team. I'm not there with the Sabres, though. So let's just spend a few minutes talking Sabres. I gotta look at the damn injury report because it changes all the time. All right, so we are taping this Thursday mid-afternoon. They have a game tonight, which we it reminds
always
me.
Happens now.
Last week we gave an Aaron Dell burial during our taping. And then he went out. Was it where did he go? Oh, Nashville. He went out and dominated him. The Sabres won 4-1. I almost laughed during that game. In fact, I was at Imperial Pizza. I told my buddy, I said, me and Joe got to stop taping shit. Or if we were going to, we got to stop talking about the goddamn Sabres the day before or the day of a game, I should say, because we look foolish. But anyway, the injury report is just one of the things we've talked about. And I said it last week. I just, please, let me get a good look at this team when they're near, forget about full health, even near full health. I feel like it's never going to happen. Now I got Hinostroza's out for weeks, lower. And of course, this is hockey, so it's all lower upper body injuries. Colin Miller's out for, I think Hinostroza's 3 weeks. I think I saw with him.
6 weeks, I think it is.
Colin Miller's
just
6
had surgery,
weeks.
Yeah,
Colin Miller's out 6 weeks with a lower body. And now Kyle Okposo, I don't even know what the hell happened to him, but he's got an upper body.
He got pasted into the boards last game.
Yep.
Rough hit.
Now they're getting Gergeson's back and Bryson back soon. Middlestat practice on Thursday, or he's full practice on Friday, and he might be back within a couple of days. I mean, who knows? People are hearing this Friday. He might even play Friday. I don't know. But this, again, what we talked about last week, man, I just want to get a good look at this team, but we're never going to because guys are always going to hurt. Now it's Hinostroza, Miller, and Okposo are all out.
Yeah, it's but you know what? We could be negative about that, and that's certainly a good thing. But Jack Quinn's up.
Yeah.
So he's getting the call. He's technically on the taxi squad, but he's going to play.
Yeah, he's playing.
And he's just absolutely been torching everybody in the AHL since he went back down after he played against Tampa a week or two ago. So that's what's got me excited. Like that, you know, the season's a wash. Like, forget it. Who cares? Like, it's put 19 guys on the injury list. Just like whatever. Just make sure it's none of the young guys. Like the fact that Middlestat's going to be back. He might be back. He might play Saturday against Philly. The way they're talking, that's cool. Which, hey, Risto's back in town Saturday. Hey, break out the highlight reel, folks. It's going to be fun. But like Quinn in there, like just
Quinn's tearing shit up in Rochester.
He's absolutely murdering everything.
6 goals and 9 points in his last 4 games since he was up here for that cup of coffee.
He just had a 4-goal game the other night. Like,
yeah, he's been sick, man. So that is something to look forward to. You're right. A guy like I like Okposo, and I think he's been an asset to this team this year. But his absence is going to give Jack Quinn a look. Alex Tuch's another guy. I mean, he's played 7 games with the Sabres now. He's had 7 points. He's looked really good. What are your thoughts with him? I'm hearing a lot of this guy has future captain written all over him. He has looked good. He looks like a good, legitimate frontline winger for the Sabres. What are your thoughts on him through 7 games now at this point?
I obviously love the offensive game that he's got. I like that he's become a big guy in the penalty kill for them because he's always on the puck. He's a really good forechecker and he's really good attacking the puck. So I like that he's a very well-rounded player. Like he's not just a pure offense or a pure defensive guy. Like you don't need that stuff.
Sure.
Like that's, pure offense. Yeah, great. That's super fun. But like, Jeff Skinner's kind of pure offense. Like you're not counting on him, closing minutes of a game to close it out. Like you're not asking him to do that. Like that's him out of his element. Tuch, his element is the entire game. So that to me makes him extremely valuable. That makes him, such a good pickup in that trade. A trade they were destined to be on the losing side of, trading Jack. But like with Tuch though, he's such a good all-round player. And, the fact that he's getting points and, listen, he's playing on a line with Thompson and with Skinner.
Yeah, Skinner.
I think that's the line. So yeah. So I mean, like that's a line that should produce points. They kind of have to produce points as far as the Sabres go. Like if they're not producing points, I don't know who else is, but like that line's worked really well and they all offer a different piece to their game. Like, Thompson's become a very well-rounded center, much more on the offensive side, but like his defensive game hasn't been bad.
Right.
His defensive game's gotten a lot better actually. He used to be a Corsi caveman before where he was just getting buried when he was on the ice, but that's a different team, different setup, different play from him now. But that line works out really well. Tuch's a very intense forechecker. He can get turnovers. He gets the puck very in good spaces all over the offensive end of the ice. So like he's a very well-rounded player. Like he's comfortable around the net. He'll dig out rebounds. He'll do all that stuff like that. I mean, you see why coaches can get excited about a guy like that. So that's super good to see. And listen, I get it. It's a bad season. Like they've won 6 games of the last 25 or something, whatever it is, 6-7 games of the last 20 whatever games. It's bad. Like I get it. But like these are the bright spots you got to look for. Like these are you got to look for these really good performances from players because one guy doesn't make a team, but if you get a bunch of one guys together, that can make a team. So, and Tuch is one of those guys. Thompson's one of those guys now. Dylan Cousins is one of those guys. Like they slowly but surely they're putting them together. It's just a lot of the guys that are injured are kind of guys that you're looking to move before the season's out anyways. Hinostroza is probably one of them. Miller's definitely one of them.
Sure.
Opozo, like he's been great all year. Like that sucks that he's out. Hopefully it's not a concussion thing. That Don Granato said it wasn't. So that's a good thing. Like, because that hit he took into the boards was pretty wicked. Like that, that was a pretty heavy hit against Ottawa. So I'm glad it's not a concussion because that was my fear immediately. Anytime you see a guy going to the boards that hard like that, like you're thinking like, oh, that's the head, but it wasn't. So that's good. But like, the little nagging injury stuff, Bryson's out, day to day, Gergensen day to day. It's just like, it goes with the territory in hockey, but it's just kind of like, man, come on, like give me something close to the 12 forwards that you thought you were going to see.
Right.
Give me the 6 defensemen you thought you were going to see. Now, I will say that with Miller being hurt, Matthias Samuelson's going to stick around for a while. He looks good.
I was going to ask you
Matthias Samuelson looks really good. And he was a guy. I love the Samuelson progression. People did not like that pick when it was made because he was a high 2nd round pick. And a lot of people were hoping they were going to take a high skill forward at that spot. And they took Samuelson, who at the time was viewed as a defensive defenseman, a heavy dude who just hits people. And he's kind of a roughneck. Like, okay, like I can get being upset about that, but he's turned into a tremendous skater. He's got a lot of offensive ability that, maybe wasn't there even when he was playing at Western Michigan. But he's still a heavy. Like he's still a guy that hammers you when he hits you, it. Like, it immediately, and you're very not happy about getting run over by a guy. But he plays so well in his end defensively. He's very strong there, and that's something they desperately needed. But he's not inept on the offensive side. Like, he can carry it a little bit, but he makes a really good first pass, and he's turned into a guy that like now you can say, all right, now he's a guy we build around. Whereas a couple of years ago, you're thinking like, I don't know where this guy fits into the. They made the pick and like he's got enough history at USA Hockey or whatever, but like I don't know how he fits into how this team's trying to get built. Now you get it because he's good. He's I don't want to see him back at Rochester the rest of the year as far as I'm concerned.
Right. It's funny. And by the way, he led the team in ice time a couple nights ago too. So it's not like they brought him up and they're just playing him a little bit here and there. So I like that. It's kind of funny. You may as well bring up a Turca too and just make it a party because you got Quinn back up now. You got Samuelson. Krebs is here. I mean, the last guy left in Rochester that you really want a good long look at is Peterka. But those are all the young guys. Before we move on to our draft, we don't talk about Jeff Skinner much on this podcast. I mean, we might, mention him in passing and stuff, but I kind of want to ask you about him because I think he's played pretty well this year. The goal scoring, the production is there. He's up to 14 goals. He's been, we all know how bad it got under Kruger. Really concerned about this guy becoming, an all-time bust when it comes to his contract. Now, because of his contract, he's probably never going to have, he's never going to be able to completely live up to that. That said, though, again, he's got 14 goals this year. He leads the team in scoring. He's on the top line. He's playing pretty well. Him, Tuch, and Thompson, that looks like a pretty good line. I don't know if Tate Thompson will be the center for them long term, but anyway, the guy is definitely bounced back from a very rough stretch under Kruger, like everyone else seemed to on this team.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on him? Because I look at his play this year and I like it. What do you think?
It's amazing what can happen when you put the guy in the position to succeed. Like it sounds like it's such a basic thing to do, but it was so hard for coaches to do here for whatever reason. Like guys are, it was Ralph and even Phil, even Housley to a bit of a degree we're guilty of that, like taking him and putting him on a depth line, a third line, or even if Ralph's case, a fourth line, or sitting him in the press box. Insane. But you put a guy in a position where he can have success and he can do well and play with other guys who can handle the puck and pass the puck and do things positive offensively, as opposed to, well, let me just throw it into the corner and go chase it. Like, this is more what you see out of him. The shots are going in for him. I mean, he leads the team in shots. No surprise there at all. But like, the shots are going in. That's a key part. And he's opportunistic. Like, that's the way he's always been his whole career. Hop on a loose puck, get a quick little dangle down low and then, beat the goalie. Like, that's how his career's been.
Dangle,
and he's
dangle. Yeah. Joe talking hockey talk again in hockey lingo.
Let me wait till I break out toe drag. I'll get that one on. But like, he's being put in positions where he can have success. Now, the one spot I don't like seeing him in is the power play. I don't know. He's never been a power play producer his entire career. Now he's getting those opportunities now because, of course, he's an offensive guy. You want to put him in there, but that 1-3-1 setup, like, there's not really a place for him to work. He's not a big slap shot guy, so you're not going to put him on the sides. He's not necessarily a great passer, so you don't want him in that bumper spot in the middle. But like, to me, put him right in front of the friggin' net. Let him do like, dirtbag stuff that he's good at doing. Like, Skinner's really good at being a dirtbag. Okay, like, he drives everybody crazy. But let him be a dirtbag down low on the power play. Let him bury rebounds. Let him do that kind of stuff. Let him be just like a total prick to whoever's trying to defend him down low. Like, that to me is the best spot for him. But like, he's always been an even strength scorer guy. Like, that's been his thing his entire career, is that he just scores at fives. And that's what he does. Like, that, he's really good at doing that. And now that they got him playing with guys that aren't Vlad Sobotka, like that, it's working. Wow, weird. What a concept, like playing with guys that know how to do things with the puck. That's so strange that he's having success.
Yeah, it's fun to watch him. And like I said, just generally speaking, and we've talked about this before, man, they're not going to win a lot of games, but you got these guys, these young kids are up now, enjoy them. And again, hopefully they get a little closer to health soon enough. By the way, one other thing too, because I know a lot of people, Colin Miller, you mentioned it, trade bait for the deadline. The trade deadline this year is not to March 21st. So even if Miller's gone 6 weeks, that puts him back early March. So we'll at least have a handful of games to show that he's healthy, hopefully. Anyway, before the trade deadline, we'll expect.
I'm sure he wants out too. Let's put it that way. I'm sure he's very eager to go somewhere where he might make the playoffs.
I'm sure he is as well. All right, let's end with our weekly ritual here, our starting five draft. Every week we take a pop culture or sports topic and we just draft, snake draft style, five for each of us. Last week we did 80s movie soundtracks, and somebody broke a 6-week losing streak. Someone broke a 6-week losing streak.
Somebody got their first win. Wow, that's cool.
I handle it with such class and humility too, ain't it? I'm
going to do a touchdown dance every time I beat you by 50 points now. So just know that you've set that table.
Let me recap. All right. So last week, 80s movie soundtracks. I went with Rocky IV, Purple Rain. I got to look at my notes here. Footloose, Beverly Hills Cop, and Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. Joe went with Top Gun, Flashdance, Cocktails, Batman, and Dirty Dancing.
One drink, cocktail. Cocktail. It's one drink.
It's two as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I won that poll. I won that 64 to 36. So that's pretty convincing win. Here's my take on it.
I mean, it's not 85 to 15 or 90 to 10, but
it's almost impossible to lose that bad unless you're me.
Considering it's a category you gave me like a week in advance. Now I was like, well, I'm losing this one. I don't say a chance. You had your notes and everything ready to go. So,
I did. I needed that. I'm an 80s guy. There's just certain ones you need to have. Like the Bills need to have this game Sunday. I tried to
throw you a softball with Van Halen songs and you still blew it.
I blew it. Van Hagar side. I went the Van Hagar route. That cost me big time. But anyway, so here's my take on that. I think you started really strong. I liked Top Gun. I thought that was a good first overall pick. I still think you should have took Purple Rain though. I think that would have played a little bit better.
Well, considering most people voted, they said, well, he's got Purple Rain. That's it.
Yeah. Top Gun. I was a little surprised.
Consider the entire thing, everybody, please.
I personally like Top Gun a lot, and I think that played pretty well, people. Flashdance was
Yeah.
a pretty good 1 and 2. So your 1 and 2 were good. I think where it fell off for you was Cocktail and Batman. I'm not sure that those resonated that much. I don't think people associate. Now, I will say
Batman soundtrack is Prince.
it
Come
is
on.
it is pretty good. It is Prince, but it's kind of like Michael Jackson with Bad. Great album, but it's never going to be Thriller. You know what I'm saying? That's I think that's how some fans would react to Batman, the soundtrack. I don't think people really associate the sound, even though you're right. It's a Joe Yerdon good critical pick, but I'm not sure it was the commercial success that you needed for this.
You're trying to get me to
bounce
dog
back
the people. You're trying to get me to talk down on the masses, and I will not do it. I let you do that.
Yeah, and I do it all the time.
I think that's why you lose.
Dirty Dancing was a great late round steal, but I think the damage was done with Cocktail and Batman. Just my take. But anyway, I did break, like I said, I broke a 6-week losing streak. Joe had won the last 6 weeks in a row. My last win prior to last week was all the way back in mid-November. We did TV talk show host, and I only won that by a couple votes. I won that 51 to 49.
That's a joke that you won it too.
Yeah.
That's a joke that you won it. I think you also only set that poll to last for 1 day, and I was like,
"Yeah, I might."
Come on, you rigging bastard! Come on.
I might have done that, and whatever. But anyway, so this week I'm gonna try to get a winning streak going here. This week we're gonna do musicals. I am up first, and look, some of these I'm not gonna even try to draw it out here. Some of these to me are just no brainers. Now I don't know how this is gonna play out with fans. But for me personally, this is a no-brainer. It's not only my favorite musical of all time, it's my favorite movie of all time. If we were doing all-time movies, this would probably be my first pick. Grease.
Okay, you got to put your money where your mouth is on the all-time movies thing, okay? Like, because that's now a future category. All-time movies. Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm taking Grease, man.
Okay.
I love Grease. 1978, man. T-Birds, Pink Ladies, Danny Zuko, Kaneki, Sandy, Liz, best dancing, best songs, best everything. This for me, that's everything. I love it. What's not to love, man? It's a movie about the 50s, high school, bunch of cool dudes, all the hot chicks, best musical acts, best everything. The dancing is unbelievable. The music is unbelievable. Yeah, it's not the greatest acting, but again, I was on the come up.
No musical has great acting.
Actually, hold on. I just said I was on the come up. I was practically a baby when this first came out. But I do remember as I got older, I remember being on a swing set in the 80s sometime and singing Oh Sandy by John Travolta, thinking I was singing to Olivia Newton-John. Olivia Newton-John was
to share this publicly, you know.
I got embarrassed. Olivia Newton-John was my first ever celebrity crush. And
that's fair.
You know, on the posters, you used to get fan posters. And they would have the address, which is pretty much the publishing company of I hand wrote letters thinking Olivia Newton-John would get it. That's how much I was obsessed with her. And that's how much I love this movie. Man. And again, or this musical. So for me, this is butter, man. This is easy. It has to be Grease. It couldn't be anything else for me. So that's what I'm going with, man.
Okay.
My man's on the clock now.
Listen, I can't argue it. Like one of us was taking it no matter what. Like you can't not pick Grease. My view on Grease is skewed from doing musicals in high school because every year there's 5 to 10 girls that would be like, we got to do Grease. And I'm like, okay, listen, we go to a Catholic school. Okay. Like that immediate non-starter. B, there's only 3 dudes that do theater here, period. Like, well, I don't know what you're thinking we're going to do with Grease with 3 dudes and one of them being me who can't sing. Like that. Absolutely. It's never happening. Like they were just, oh, come on, we got to do it. I was like, we're not doing friggin' Grease. Like get lost. Like I got so over hearing about Grease. I just, enough already. So that like, even if I was picking it, it would have been like Dirty Dancing where I'm picking it at the end. If somehow it didn't get picked by then, she'd be like, fine, Grease. Okay. Like it just because I have to take it. You have to take it at that point. But that's, but again, my view is ruined from doing musical theater where I just I'm over Grease. I'm over Grease, which is why I'm glad you stayed away from these next 2, because I think you left me a very wide open door to romp on you, because I'm taking with my next 2 picks, I'm taking West Side Story and Hamilton. I don't think I need to explain West Side Story. That to me is one of the all-time greatest musicals. It's the story, like the story does not go away. Like that's a story that lasts forever. I mean, like Spielberg just did it. Like, I mean, when Spielberg's doing a musical and he picks West Side Story, like, okay, that's a really good one. But like the songs, the whole story, everything about it is so good. And Hamilton, like Jesus Christ, it's been the biggest musical for the last, I don't even know how long, man. Like it feels like it's been around for 20 years at this point because it's constantly talked about and it sells out everywhere. The traveling show sells out everywhere. Like it was just in Buffalo now for like the last month or so. And like every showing is just loaded. And if you can
great
take
rap songs too.
I
only watched it for the first time a year and a half ago. It was amazing. It's not that old either, by the way.
Yeah, no, but it feels like it's been around forever because it's talked about all the time.
Oh yeah.
And Lin-Manuel Miranda did such a good job with being able to take the American Revolution and a guy who's, Alexander Hamilton, who was, a key figure of the revolution, but like he wasn't George Washington, he wasn't John Adams, he wasn't any of those guys. Hamilton was kind of a prick, really. Like he kind of sucked. Like he's just kind of a crappy dude, but like he took the Chernow novel and made it into a musical and made it something that's like a cultural phenomenon at this point. It's wild. It's wild that people are like nuts about a musical about the revolution, and it's like about one guy who's part of the revolution. Like it's wild. It's absolutely wild. So you left me that. You left it sitting there on the plate for me to take, so I can now beat your head in by a million votes.
All right, fair enough. We'll see. I got two. I got two now.
All right.
I went with something really old. 1978 Grease. The first time I'm going to go with something significantly more recent with my second pick. And that's The Greatest Showman. And again, this is another movie that quite frankly, Joe, I had never, this came out and I don't even know what year it came out. It came out in 2017. I did not watch this until late 2019. I don't know what it is, why I take so long. I'm so behind the curve when it comes to watching shows and stuff. But this just blew me away, man. One of the greatest soundtracks I've ever heard in my life. And I did not know Zac Efron had any type of talent like that. Because I don't know what he was on. He became a star because of High School Musical, maybe? Was that what he was on?
Sounds right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was great. Hugh Jackman is obviously amazing.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman rules.
Yeah. I'm looking at the soundtrack now. I mean, The Greatest Show, This Is Me, Never Enough. From Now On, I love that song, by the way. Million Dreams, Rewrite the Stars, which again was with Zac Efron. I knew he could sing a little. I didn't know he could sing that good, man. And that Zendaya chick, I love her. This is a great movie, and I think it's going to stand the test of time. As the years go on, it won't ever get dated. So I love this movie. And then speaking of, I'm going to go back to old school here. I'm looking at my notes. I'm going to go Phantom of the Opera. That's
okay.
Again,
it's hard to hate. It's impossible to hate. You can't.
Came out in the mid-80s. Andrew Lloyd Webber, Music of the Night, one of my favorite songs. I saw this, and I don't remember where I saw it. Not live, but I mean, I saw the play version of it, and then I also saw there's a movie version of it. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it was with a younger, and I don't think he was that famous at the time, Gerard Butler, and
no, I haven't seen that.
And the chick from Shameless, the one who plays Fiona, I forgot her name off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but she was the lead. She was the lead actress in this, and I didn't think all that much of her in Shameless, quite frankly. But she was really good, man. I like the story. You know, I like everything about this, so I feel confident in saying that. I wouldn't go so far to say you're whooping my ass, by the way.
Well, I mean, no. Look, listen, Phantom of the Opera is a great, classy pick. Like that's
it is classy.
It's way more above board than I thought you were capable of. Let's put it that way. I'm honestly stunned that you took Phantom of the Opera. I was like, okay, like, Pat maybe did some homework here. Like, okay.
Oh, I did my homework, man. Well, you got two now.
You called me out saying I don't know, I'm not classy or something like that. Just prick. You don't know musicals. Oh yeah. Well, guess what, pal? Again, you've made some good picks. Greatest Showman. I don't.
So you don't like either of my first two picks. Let's just be honest.
I respect Grease.
Neither of them were probably in your top five. Let's be honest.
I respect Grease. I just don't like it. and
how I feel about
I've
U2.
explained my reasons for that. So
that's how I feel about U2, the music group. I don't really care for U2's music, but everyone in the world seems to like them, and you got to respect them. So whatever. But I love Grease. All right, you got two, man.
All right, so you went classy. I'm gonna go classy. Okay, you went old school. I'm gonna go old school here because these next two, these are so good. These shows are incredibly good, and they've gotten, well, one of them's gotten a modern movie made of it to kind of bring that back to the forefront, and that's Chicago.
Good pick.
Chicago's a dynamite show. Like that's a really good show. It's impossible to dislike it. It's just such a strong performance out of everything. The songs are memorable. Everything about it's really good.
I agree. It's a good pick.
My other one, definitely more old school, and this is one I wish we did in high school, and it's Guys and Dolls. Guys and Dolls it's the best version of that is with Frank Sinatra. Like that. I mean, I don't know if
that guy
I'm going too old with that, but like Sinatra did a handful of musicals, but like that's by far his best one. Like that, like the way he busts the songs out in that one is just, it's all time class. Like he's Sinatra. Like he's an all time best.
Sure.
But the way he pulls that off, and it's it's a whole gangstery kind of thing, and it's a fun story too. I love the story of Guys and Dolls, but like that, but like when you hear Sinatra sing "Luck Be a Lady Tonight," holy Jesus, man! Like that is
it's awesome.
That's worth watching. Like worth watching the entire thing on its own just to catch that moment, because it's such a like that. It's a song that's so good that Sinatra made it his own, basically. Like people are just like, wow, what a great song it is. Yeah, it's from a musical, guys. Like, but like the story of Guys and Dolls is so fun. It's such a fun show. And again, I'm pained because we never did it back in the day. And it was one that I wanted to do. And I was like, I'll learn how to sing to try to get a lead role in that one. Let me just give me a crack at it. Let me learn how to use this voice. But I never did. I only use it for speaking, not singing, which is good because I can't carry a tune in a bucket. So yeah, Guys and Dolls in Chicago.
My take on your picks is I'm 50-50. I'm lukewarm on Chicago, similar to how you were when I picked The Greatest Showman. Guys and Dolls, to me, I love that pick. That's a winning pick, man. That's definitely a winning pick. It's one of those, like, what can you really say about it? Like, how could you say well, I don't know. Everyone has different, tastes, but that's got to be on the list of top 10 list of literally everybody. If you take musicals serious, if you've watched enough of them, that needs to be on any top 10 list. All right, I got two more here. I got to make it count. Got to make it count. I'm in for a dogfight.
It'll be a battle.
All right, so I'm gonna go. I'm looking at my list here. I'm gonna go with Moulin Rouge. That's going back almost 20 years now. It doesn't seem like it's been out for 20 years, but
okay,
20 years, or at least the version I'm talking about with Ian McGregor and Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
Nominated for 8 Oscars, by the way, including Best Picture. I'm not a Nicole Kidman fan. I'm not, to be honest with you, but I loved her in this. I thought she was spectacular. Let me throw a quick fun fact at you too that I didn't know until I was doing a little bit of homework on this, and there I go with my head jerking my head again. I just caught myself on video doing that. But anyway, the part of Christian, which of course played by Ian McGregor, actually auditioned for that, and he didn't get it. Obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio auditioned for that role.
Wow,
and did not get it. It went to Ian McGregor. My biggest shock was that Leonardo DiCaprio had to audition for anything.
Yeah, right.
But I guess going back 20 years ago, maybe he had to, and especially for, a musical. But anyway, I love the soundtrack. I love the story. It's a great musical. And then for my last pick here, I don't know, man, because some people might consider this a joke, but I'm dead serious. Little Shop of Horrors, all the way back in the mid 80s.
That's good.
Great musical.
The movie version is excellent.
I still go around. Let me be honest with you, Joe. I picked this because of the movie version. All right. If you think I've sat there and watched this on stage and came to this conclusion, you're nuts. It's because of the movie, man. I still go around to this day saying, feed me sometimes when I'm starving. Rick Moranis was great. Ellen Green as
Steve
Audrey
Martin
was
awesome.
great. What a great, Steve Martin and John Candy, Bill Murray at the dentist. That was awesome too. The whole scene. He just loved the pain. Christopher Guest. There was a lot of good cameos in that, man. So yeah, I feel confident about those. I don't know how I'm gonna do, but Moulin Rouge, Little Shop of Horrors. I don't know if I won it, but I don't think I lost it with either of those picks.
I feel like you've leaned very heavily on movies, like movie.
Of course
versions.
I did.
Okay.
Of course I did. I have to, don't
I? I don't know. I thought you were a guy with class and would have gone to the theater a lot. So
you believe this shit about class? Come on.
I took it to heart, God damn it. Okay.
I have no class. I was just joking. All right, you gotta end this though, man. You gotta end strong.
That's yeah. There's one that neither of us have picked yet. That is again an all-timer. It's an all-timer. Now, the movie version, this is probably not as good, but the stage version is an all-timer, and it's Les Miserables.
Les Miserables.
You have to say it in the most French way possible. Les Miserables.
Can I give you a hot take before you even describe why you picked this? I'm gonna give you a quick hot take.
Okay.
I would have picked this. Do you know why I didn't pick it? There's only one reason why I didn't pick it.
Why?
Because of what you just said. I can't fucking pronounce it properly. It's Les Miserables to me. It's the only reason why I didn't pick that. I love this fucking musical.
Then pick it. Just stumble over the name and just pick it. This is going to cost you now. See, this is how it's going to work.
Why'd you?
Because people the whole time they're going to look at our list and go, "Who? Why didn't you pick? Joe took Les Mis. Okay, well, all right, Joe wins. Easy.
But why did you take it?
It's such an incredible drama. It's everything about it, and like even the film version of it. It's not great. It's not my thing, but like. You're getting Russell Crowe in there involved, and it's just kind of like he could sing, and it's like, yeah, he can kind of sing, he can do it a little bit, but like everything about, and it's again, it's a dire story, like it's a very dire story. It's it's a period piece kind of thing, French Revolution, I think, if I'm correct. I don't know. I might be very wrong on that.
I can't verify that.
Yeah,
not off the top of my head. Anyway,
we're very well cultured here, Pat. See, this is where we're at. But like the show itself, and anytime I was doing theater stuff, it was talked about. Like when you got past all the Grease nonsense, Les Mis was the show that everybody was like, "Oh my god, I love it." Like I was torn between Les Mis and Rent. But Rent is extremely dated now. Like Rent is like a time capsule musical. Like that was like a late 80s, 90s period thing. I don't know that it really stands up anymore. Like people love the show. Like it's a great show, but like if you put that on now, people will be like, wow, Rent. Okay. All right, fine. But like a show like Les Mis stands the test of time. And if you got people that can pull off the big songs in that one, oh man, you've got an absolutely killer show. Like it's just like an all-time like class performance. Like if you can pull off acting and singing in Les Mis, you've really accomplished a lot as far as I'm concerned, because you have to be extremely talented to do all these shows, like without a doubt. But Les Mis is hard. Like that's hard emotional work and singing and the whole nine. Like everything about it is just such a powerful thing. And like it's from a period where like Americans aren't all that familiar with, but like the fact that it plays so well here says a lot about it. So yeah,
pronounce it one more time.
Les Miserables.
So elegant.
That's as eloquent as I'll ever get. Okay?
All right, here's the recap, folks, as we're getting out of here. Let me recap the draft one more time. I took Grease, The Greatest Showman, Phantom of the Opera, Moulin Rouge, Little Shop of Horrors. Joe Yerdon takes West Side Story, Hamilton, Chicago, Guys and Dolls, and that movie that he just said, that musical.
Les Miserables.
Such a big fan. I'm probably going to get my ass home. All right, Vegas has this. You getting 58%. That's the Vegas line right now. Okay. Vegas has you getting 58%. That's what sources are telling me.
But okay. I like your sources. They're good.
All right. This was fun as always. Thank everyone for listening. Make sure you follow me on Twitter @Pat Moran Tweets. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify. And again, go to YouTube, Talk About Flow Podcast YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe there. Check Joe out on his podcast, Maintenance Day. Lance Lazowski. It drops every Monday. Noted Hockey Substack. Follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Yerdon. As always, this was fun. Next week, win or lose, it's going to be a very spirited show because I'm either going to be in the best mood ever or I'm going to be in the worst mood ever. But I'll look forward to talking to you like I always do, man. Thanks for doing the pod, buddy.
Absolutely. And I'm prepared to do the emotional labor of handling you next week.